On today's show, were we wrong about Deandre Ayton? Mark Stein brings new reports that talks could still be on with Deandre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns. And we've just got trades on trades on trades for you guys on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
How about 10 Mavericks, NBA champions? Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, subscribe and follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube and join the 25,000 subscribers that we have now amassed on YouTube. Thanks to everybody that helped us get to 25,000 subs on YouTube. The second Locked On channel, Fantasy Basketball, is almost at 60,000. Josh Lloyd.
We don't count Josh Lloyd.
Like, I do. For my job specifically, I do. I would. That's how we beat the NFL champ. The best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let us know. Name one player the Mavericks have to trade for. Just give me one player. If you want to support the show, text us, get text alerts from us. Just literally get text straight to your phone from me and Isaac. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below or text the number in the description. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The trade machine matriarch, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Oh, we're almost there. We're almost to free agency. Friday evening, Friday night. That's the first time teams and players and agents can talk to each other.
Legally.
Nobody is talking this week. Nobody has been talking over the past few weeks. Everybody's just waiting for that buzzer to hit on Friday to have the conversations. But shout out to Mark Stein, just dropping a Mavs little drop there on the Substack today. And just I was reading it on my way to work this morning.
We've got some trades for you. I've got a couple of trades for some wings, some stopgap centers.
After I parked, that's when I was reading it.
Yeah, sure. We've got some trades for some stopgap centers, some wings. Tobias Harris can be had for a crumble cookie, so I'm going to see if the Mavs can send a crumble cookie to the Sixers and get Tobias Harris. We'll talk about Deandre Ayton, but first, let's get into the latest Mavs rumors. Adrian Wojnarowski went on SportsCenter and commented on the Kyrie Irving market, and he said, quote, "The market for Kyrie Irving, legitimate places that he would want to leave and go to, is extremely limited, almost nil." Then he said that the full expectation is that he returns to Dallas. The question is, how many years will he go back on? The money is not as much of an issue as the issue is how many guaranteed years he gets. Your thoughts on Kyrie coming back? We talked about his number change yesterday after the introduction of Derek Lively wearing number 2. He's going to now wear number 11 again and wear number 11 for the Mavericks. What are your thoughts on Kyrie returning?
I've been pretty adamant that Kyrie's going to come back. Been that way for a long time now. I still think it's a 3+1. I think it's 3 guaranteed years. I think it's a player option on the 4th year. I don't think it's at the full annual max number, which is, I think it's going to be in the low 40s. And yeah, it's going to come out. I think it's going to be like a 4-year, it'll say 4-year, but I think it'll be a 3+1.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 40 to 45 a year. And there you go.
Jeff Skin Wade, friend of the show, Mavs broadcaster, semi-insider, just tweeted 4 for 160. Should I read it? And then a clock emoji.
What else with it?
Just a clock emoji. That's it. Should I read anything into it? Skin, if you're listening, should we read anything into you just tweeting those numbers 4-160?
Is it a dash or is it like a slash?
It's a slash, like exactly how you would do a contract.
Okay. So it could be like a fraction. It could be.
What is 4 divided by 1? I mean, that would just be the smallest number.
It could be.
That's point. It's like 2.5%.
Yeah.
So I'm not reading anything. I just thought it was funny, but that's the number that it would be if he's making about 40 million.
Kyrie, yeah.
If he's making about 40 million a year, that would be the number. So the Kyrie Irving story continues on. I'm still holding on. I got the 20% of me that just just won't believe anything until he signs pen to paper, because you just never know what's going to happen with Kyrie. All right. Mark Stein also reported this story today about Deandre Ayton, dropped it in his Substack. Incredible stuff. It's a must read for everybody. Go subscribe to his Substack. Great stuff all the time. He reported that the Mavericks were in talks for Deandre Ayton. We knew this. We heard this from Chris Haynes, but he also talked about the exact deal that was mentioned. The deal was Tim Hardaway Jr., Rashawn Holmes, who's going to be rerouted from Sacramento, and JaVale McGee was going to go to the Phoenix Suns. Deandre Ayton was going to come back for the Mavericks. So when we talked about this yesterday, we had both assumed that the DeAndre Ayton trade talk was before the draft. This now confirms that that was not the case, and we were incorrect about that, and that it would happen during the draft, and they were still considering it and talking about it. Mark Stein also said that the Suns didn't want JaVale's contract. If the Mavericks did that deal with Tim Hardaway, Rashawn Holmes, and JaVale McGee, the Mavericks actually cut about $3.2 million in salaries off their books. So it would have been like a money-saving deal for the Mavericks in the short term, but in the long term, you have one extra year on Ayton's deal than you do on Tim's, Rashawn Holmes, and JaVale McGee's deals. But the Suns didn't want to take JaVale's money back, so they turned it down. The question now becomes, would you do DeAndre Ayton for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Rashawn Holmes?
Well, yeah, like you said in there, the Suns liked the idea of, turning Ayton into, Tim and Rashawn Holmes, that they like both those guys. He did say at the very bottom of that, some paraphrase that, hey, they could revisit these talks at some point. Might not be dead, but go read it. Go read for all the details. I'm thankful that JaVale's on the team because he stopped it from happening. So, no, I mean, I'm just not the biggest fan of making this type of
you completely sent me with that one. That's the first time you've been thankful for JaVale McGee since you were convinced, since right before the season started, when you were still convinced he was going to be a good starting center.
That was a good zag, wasn't it?
It really got me.
I seen some tweets today and we're like, oh, of course JaVale held up the deal. I'm like, well, actually, I'm kind of glad that it did.
The exact words from Mark Stein, by the way, were sources with knowledge of the Phoenix-Dallas trade discussion said a resumption of the Ayton talks could not be ruled out. So even though Haynes has reported that the Suns are going to keep, DeAndre Ayton, I'm calling BS.
Does anyone smell anything smoky?
Smokescreen season. It's smokescreen season. And so I think
he's on the phone with Portland every other.
Well, he's on the phone with Portland, but he's also got the Suns on speakerphone, just like sitting in the room with him at all times.
Can I make a prediction on what happens with Dame real quick?
We're gonna do that. We're gonna be just another NBA podcast that talks about Lillard.
No, I don't think we're gonna hear any other update. And the next thing we hear is just gonna be a drop of the trade, Dame to Miami.
It's gonna be it's gonna be Shams too, like completely out of left field. Shams goes, Damian
Chris
Lillard.
is like, I've been working for this for years.
This was my moment.
This is my moment. No, I just think that Dame told him, is like, hey, yeah, like I want vets. I want to see what you do in free agency. Cool. And I just don't think Portland's gonna go out there and like max out Jeremy Grant and be like, hey, No, I think that was his way of like, hey, I know you're not gonna do this, so they're just gonna trade in Miami, and there you go.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Ayton edition after you take Derek Lively. We've both been in the camp of, hey, you still need to add another big. I think they still need another stopgap big, a year, 2 years, something like that. But like, I guess I just wouldn't fully. I would just need to talk to some people with the Mavs to fully understand that, of like, to take a guy in the lottery and then trade for a guy at the same position, because they're not playing together.
No.
And to trade for a guy at the same position, it's still super young, that's under contract for multiple years at over $30 million a year. Like that, I don't know. It just surprises me a little bit. And yeah, I was wrong on that. I still be kind of surprised they do it, but yeah.
So here's if I'm going to try to talk myself and everyone else into this. DeAndre Ayton has been a disappointing number one pick, but he's still been a good center in the league. He started for a finals team. He started a bunch of playoff games. He's averaged like 17 and 10. Like he can do all the things the Mavericks would want to do. He's absolutely an upgrade over what they had at center, and would be so much better than anything they've run out at center, Porzingis maybe aside, for the last 10, 15 years. For a really long time, since Tyson Chandler in 2011. I mean, it's just been a long time Or Tyson Chandler in 2014, 15? Like, since then, probably.
Ayton gets traded here. Here's Tyson Chandler again. Like, everybody's Tyson.
He's not him. But Ayton's deal is 3 years. He is making like 32 million, 33 million, I think, and then 35 million. When he gets to that third year, he becomes tradable then, just like the Porzingis deal just got traded, right? You have 1 year left. You can get moved at that point. And so if it does become an issue where Lively is able to, all right, we know that this guy's a starter. We know that he can step up. Then you can move Ayton at that point and do that. Like, I only look at this as a 2-year deal for him because that last year would be expiring. He'd still be probably a playable player. He may have some value by the end of it. Change of scenery. We've talked about that with several different guys. Last week, we talked ourselves into John Collins coming to the Mavericks, and he just got dumped to the Jazz.
I don't have an issue with DeAndre Ayton's basketball fit. I think him in a different system, like in all of that, I'm not opposed to his game. It's just the money and the investment into him after you take a guy in the lottery at the same position. That's my only thing about it.
But look at it as you're investing what? You'd be investing $39 million in center, which you need to. The Mavs finally invest because if you combined Ayton and Lively, all right, then all of a sudden your center room is really, really good. And maybe Ayton does become really good. Or maybe Derek Lively's a bust. Like, it happens.
Whoa.
So if you take 2 chances on guys like this and you're saying, okay, well, we've got to get better at this, right? You and I both agree they have to get better at center soon. And so maybe Ayton becomes that guy. I don't think it's the best move for the Mavericks personally. That's me trying to talk myself into that move. All those things I just said. I don't think it's the best personally, but coming up, let's talk about the deals and we'll talk about a couple of things and then we'll get into some more trades with Tobias Harris and that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about eBay Motors. eBay Motors has you covered because they know that you can't just bring in DeAndre Ayton and draft Derek Lively and expect it all to fit together. You have to have the perfect right fit. So just like a basketball team needs to have the right players to fit together, you need to make sure that your car parts and accessories fit together. So head to eBay Motors with eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure that every part you need fits just right the first time around. So just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, making us part of your day, being part of the show. We appreciate each and every one of you. And tomorrow, we'll get into more rumors. It's just rumor central all the time here. We'll talk about more trades. We'll talk about some more stuff the Mavericks can do. And then, of course, we'll have an episode for you Friday. We'll probably go 7 days. And then after next week, Summer League is coming. So we should know about the roster and should know who's playing, and that should be good. And maybe one of us will go to Summer League. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get into some more DeAndre Ayton trades, though. So if it comes down to it, though, if the Mavericks do end up doing that deal and go and revisit this and say, all right, DeAndre Ayton for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Rashawn Holmes, they can't do the MLE at that point, I don't think. Unless Kyrie takes it so much less, I don't think they could do it.
They'd have to make another roster move.
They would have to make some other kind of roster move. But Tim Hardaway and Holmes for DeAndre Ayton, like as a deal straight up, that value just player for player. How could the Mavs turn that down?
Because you be paying Luka, Kyrie, and DeAndre Ayton around $115 million. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason. If they make the deal, I get it, because DeAndre Ayton, I think, would make the team better than Tim and Holmes would. You look at the rotation at that point, you're looking at what Luka, Kyrie, Reggie, Josh, DeAndre Ayton starting 5 with, the young guys, Hardy, Lively, Omax, and Maxey off the bench. And then, whatever you can add to the team at that point. I don't know. I'm just not in love with it, man. I'm just not in love with it. But it's not really, if they took Cam Whitmore instead of Derek Lively, I'm more of a fan of it.
Interesting.
I'm more of I'm listening to a little bit more, but Yeah, that's just where I'm at. Can I give you a DeAndre Ayton scenario in which they could get involved, same players, but ship him somewhere else?
Well, yeah. So one last thing on this is that if they do with Tim Hardaway, Holmes, and JaVale McGee, like let's say the Suns go back to this and say, all right, we'll go back to your original thing. The Mavericks can get DeAndre Ayton and still add a Grant Williams or a Bruce Brown or a Harrison Barnes or somebody like that. And at that point, I'm more into it. If it's just adding Ayton and moving off of Tim and Holmes, that's still in a vacuum is a good deal for the Mavericks, but I wouldn't be as into it. Like you said, they made two big roster upgrades, the 12th pick, and then their one big move in DeAndre Ayton to upgrade the center spot, which would be awesome. They definitely desperately need it, but they need other things. They need other things too, and to fill other holes. And so if they can do both things by getting off JaVale, getting Ayton, and then adding somebody in the MLE, that would be obviously ideal.
I'm not a fan of the whole like Reggie, $5 million wave stretch, all of that.
Right.
But that decision has to be made, this week before free agency even starts on Wednesday. So
can we also just say how sad it is that the Suns were like Tim Hardaway and Holmes, like, hey, let's do that for Ayton. Like, oof, that is.
John Collins got traded for Rudy Gay in a.
John Collins was in a first round, like a number 1 overall pick that they picked over Luka. I mean, can we all go all the way back to there?
DeAndre Ayton.
Woof.
So what if we kept the same players in this deal, but what if they called up Toronto and said, hey, can we reroute DeAndre Ayton to Toronto and let's get Siakam involved?
Ooh.
Into where we could get Siakam in Dallas, DeAndre Ayton, Josh Green, and a first from Dallas to Toronto with Tim Hardaway, Rashawn Holmes, and Otto Porter Jr. to the Suns.
I would say the Raptors, just knowing Masai and all that, would say that that's like you're not even halfway to what we want for Siakam.
Okay, but let me push back just a little bit.
Okay.
The report that came out about Siakam and like Portland and some of the stuff was he's said that he's not going to sign an extension with anybody who gets traded for. Well, that immediately
it does
takes his value down. Or it just means that they're just not going to trade him at this point. You know who would take the swing and saying, hey, we'll swing for it? It would be a team like Dallas. So I don't think it's like DeAndre Ayton, Josh Green, and a first round pick from Dallas. That's not the end of the world if it's 1 year of Siakam. If you think Siakam might leave some. So anyway, that's just one I thought of. And if you're Phoenix, you get Tim, Holmes, and then Otto Porter.
And I've seen this. I had a couple of people text us in the subtext and say, well, Lively and Ayton together. There's no Lively and Ayton together. You don't play those guys together. That doesn't work. You can play Siakam and Lively together, and all of a sudden that becomes a really good front court that you can work with. And so, yeah, that's a really interesting deal. But I don't think Toronto takes that. I think that they're just holding on, and they've become too stingy. Like the trades that they've been turning down for OG are just.
They also just signed like a rookie head coach or hired. I don't know.
Yeah. So, but
stay in the land of mediocrity with as you leave.
We don't know which direction they're going. Anything else on Ayton?
No.
Tobias Harris had a comment today that was hilarious. He said that casual Sixers fans want to trade me for a crumble cookie. We know that our friend Keith Pompey, Locked On Sixers host, and for the Philadelphia Inquirer beat writer covering the Sixers, has said that the Mavericks have looked into a Tobias Harris trade. So I got a couple of trades for you, and I'm curious what you think about them.
All right. Ready?
Okay. Tobias Harris, he's making $40 million, which the first thing you go, that's $10 more million than Ayton's making. Okay, but it's only 1 year. So it's just 1 year. He's a wing. He can shoot 40% from three. He's 6'9", so he's a bigger wing. He can defend. He's not all defense. He's not going to get anywhere close to that, but he can defend credibly, I think, at least for a playoff team for the Sixers. Tobias Harris for Tim Hardaway, Maxey, and Holmes.
No.
Here's the case to do it, though. You're upgrading the Tim spot to Tobias. I think that's a good move. Maxey, that one stinks to lose him. Holmes, wash. Dallas cuts $1.6 million, so you still could do the MLE on that too. And then after next season, the Mavericks only have Luka, Kyrie, hopefully, Hardy, JaVale, Derek Lively, Omax, and then Josh Green will be a restricted free agent. So, like, you're going into next summer with a lot more flexibility because Tobias comes off the books then. And so that's an interesting, like, cap looking forward move for the Mavs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not just 100% sure that trade would make me better this coming season. The fact that Maxi's in that deal scares me a little bit.
So,
because I agree that Tobias is probably a little bit of an upgrade over Tim.
No, you asked me this earlier today. I'm pushing. He's definitely an up. He's a guy that could go off for 20 points and he can get his own shot. And so,
okay,
like if the Mavericks go into the season and say, all right, how many of our guys could realistically go off for 20, no matter who else is on the floor with them, right? It's Luka, Kyrie, and then Hardy, and then like Tim. It depends. Who's he playing with?
Max.
But it depends on who's playing with him. Tobias, you could say that about him and say, okay, well, we think we have another guy that could just go off and have 30 on any given night just because. And so I think it would be an upgrade on Tim. I'm with you that losing Maxey would hurt because it would hurt flexibility of lineups, defense, and all that. What about this one, though? Tobias for Tim, Bullock, and Holmes instead. You do Bullock instead. You don't clear as much money going forward, but you still have, like, you can play Tobias, Maxey, and a center, or just Tobias and Maxey. Dallas is cutting $1.1 million at that point for next year.
I think that's a no.
Still no.
Yes. I think that's a no.
Okay, what if you do Tim,
I think the only way I'm listening is Tim, Holmes, and JaVale.
Tim, Holmes, and JaVale. The Mavericks will add $3.5 million, so there's no MLE at that point probably, unless Kyrie takes some kind of other deal. So Tobias would be your big add. But you also get off of Holmes, JaVale, and Tim. So you clear some money for next season. Like, you clear a lot of money.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that one. I would have a meeting about it. I'd think about it. It's not a home run, but I would consider it.
Not a Holmes run, that's for sure.
Wow.
Why the Sixers would do some of these deals? Maybe they think maybe they want to do the Porzingis thing and split Tobias into a couple of different players, or the Ayton thing and split him into a couple of different players. Like, that's the only reason why they would think about it. Maybe Tobias is upset about his situation. He just talked about the Sixers fans wanting to trade him for a crumble cookie. So I don't know. That seems like the
Crumble as a sponsor.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Not that big of a fan. Coming up, we've got some more trades.
I like my frozen Fritos.
We'll get into some more trades coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, you didn't like my Ayton trades. You only liked one of my Tobias Harris trades. Do you have it? Give me some more of your trades that you're thinking the Mavericks could do this week.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I went back to the Orlando thing. Obviously, I've talked about Tim and Markel. I like that one.
Yeah.
Because I think Orlando has to get rid of a point guard. What if it's Jalen Suggs?
Ooh.
What's Jalen Suggs' value around the league right now? What do you think about that? Not technically for Dallas. I'm just saying, what do you think his value is? Like, could you call it Toronto and do the? I got stuck on Siakam a little bit because I'm like, Dallas is a team that would actually give up something for him. Could you do the same type of thing to where it's like Jalen Suggs, Josh Green, Holmes, and a first to the Toronto? Because Toronto likes Suggs, but they went with Scotty Barnes over Suggs in that draft.
Right. I think if you're Orlando, you're selling a little low on Suggs because he was the 5th pick 2 years ago. He played 53 games last year, 48 the year before that. He hasn't shot the ball well at all. He's had some flashes here and there. Really good defensive player, but shooting-wise and getting his own shot and playmaking, you're like, all right, I'm still trying to figure out what this guy is. And so I think you'd be selling a little low. But they did just add Anthony Black. They have Fultz, like you said. They have Cole Anthony.
I think they need to get rid of a point, and I think they would love a Tim Hardaway on their team. Who says no? Tim and Josh for Suggs and Isaac.
Me.
I'm not talking about you.
Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac, not Isaac Harris. No, I say no. I'm out on Jonathan Isaac. Like, you got to give me stuff if I'm taking Jonathan Isaac. Like, I know
I'm saying, like, Jalen Suggs is
so, but then
like,
I'm not giving you Josh Green then, right? Like, that's the tax.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's a home run of deal, that because I was thinking about like who would say no in that, Josh is due to be paid sooner, a year sooner than Jalen Suggs. So it'd be kind of like if you think they're similar, it would be kind of like a delaying it a year if you're Dallas.
Right.
I'd say Suggs is, obviously a point guard. He could be a third ball handler, probably, more than Josh. And then it comes down to like the Jonathan Isaac thing. Tim's more consistent, more reliable. Jonathan Isaac's obviously the higher upside swing. If he's healthy, then he fits your team perfect. But I don't know. Anyway, keep going with yours. I mean, I have a bunch of other like smaller ones, but
yeah, just giving up on Suggs this early. I feel like if they're going to trade one, it's Fultz. Wasn't necessarily their guy. They traded for him, but he's got one. He's expiring.
I agree. That's why I like the Tim for Markelle Fultz.
The Tim for Markelle Fultz one does work.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking at who are the stopgap centers the Mavericks could actually add. I went through the whole league and I was like, all right, I want
DeAndre Jordan.
I want all the names, and he was one of the names, but he didn't make the final list. Kelly Olynyk, we've talked about, 1-year deal with the Jazz. Jonas Valanciunas, 1-year deal with the.
Can we just say real quick with the Jazz, they got to figure out something with their bigs, like Hendricks, Olynyk, Kessler, John Collins. I feel like I'm even missing one.
Olynyk,
yeah. So yes, I would take Olynyk. Yeah, I like him.
So, but they have Kessler and Olynyk that'll play center. They have Collins and Markkanen will play some 4 minutes.
Markkanen, that was the one I forgot.
Markkanen also plays 3. So Markkanen and Hendricks are like your 3s, kind of.
At 6'10".
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but he did. He played 3 last year for them at times with Kessler and Olynyk on the floor. I mean, he played against Dallas. So Kelly Olynyk is stopgap center. Jonas Valanciunas, stopgap center. Clint Capella, I would still put on that list. He's probably the best one on this list. Zubats from the Clippers. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to figure out something. Vooch that you talked about earlier, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, so no trades really there. And then Plumlee, he's an unrestricted free agent. And I think he would probably be a stopgap center. I said, okay, who can they trade for then? What if the Mavericks decided to go to the Jazz, and the Jazz wanted to get off Colin Sexton's deal?
Oof.
And the Jazz just go Kelly Olynyk and Colin Sexton for Tim Hardaway and Holmes.
Sign me up.
So the Mavs get 3 years of Colin Sexton. So they're not saving any money off this. He's making $19 million in the 3rd year of this deal.
Sexton and Hardy, Spider-Man meme.
Right. You have that issue to figure out. But you get your stopgap center, and you have, you get a guy like a talent in Colin Sexton off the bench. The Jazz turn a scorer in Colin Sexton into a shooter in Tim Hardaway. Maybe that's something they want to do. The money is nearly identical. The Mavericks would cut like $400,000 this year. So it doesn't change too much, but you get the talent there. And if the Jazz are motivated to get off that 3rd year of Colin Sexton's deal, then this is a good deal for them.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that one. I like that one. I like Kelly Olynyk as the stopgap center.
My guess is
good enough to start, but also not too good to come off the bench if Lively supplants him.
My guess is the Jazz probably like Colin Sexton a little bit more for this deal, and they would go, no, there's no way. But hey, if they're motivated to get off that money, they just added, Keontae George. They've got Jordan Clarkson they have to do something with still. Taylor Horton-Tucker just picked up his option for next year. I mean, they've just got guys to try and figure out.
Yeah.
And maybe Colin's the odd man out.
Can I give you a small trade real quick?
I'm ready. Is it for a stopgap center? Because I have a theme going here.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
This is for the people. This is for our subs on YouTube. This is for all of our listeners.
The 25K strong.
JaVale for Conchar. Neither one of them play.
No, the Grizzlies fans are.
Denver valued a vet last year in DeAndre Jordan, a vet center on their bench.
Yeah.
Let's just swap them. They make around the similar. I think Conchar makes a little bit less than JaVale, but hey, let's swap them. Let's get another Slovenian in our locker room, and Conchar can be our Bertans replacement.
Conchar has a weird deal. Have you looked at it?
Crap.
Conchar, according to Spotrac, he's making $2.4 million next year. Yeah. And then he's got an extension, $6 million, $6 million, $6 million the next 3 years after that. So for that reason, I'm out. I'd rather get off with the JaVale deal.
You heard it here first. Nick does not like Slovenia.
I have a trade for one of I got a trade for one of Luka's friends in a second here. You want to hear?
Okay, keep going. Yeah.
All right, Jonas Valanciunas. Who says no straight up? Jonas Valanciunas for Tim Hardaway. We know the Pelicans were interested in Tim Hardaway. The Mavericks would
Dallas says no.
Really?
I think they would, yeah.
The Mavericks would cut $2.5 million and get off of the 2nd year of Tim's deal. I don't think Dallas would say no to that one. I think you just take Jonas as your stopgap 1-year center. You know, you get off of the last year of Tim's deal. I think that one, and you cut $2.5 million for this upcoming season. Like, I think that's a win.
Him and Luka together, I don't know. It breaks my brain trying to think about it, but he would give you some rebounding. He can step out and hit a three.
Yes.
Yes. I wonder if they'd be as interested in Tim now that they just drafted Hawkins.
And they still have CJ McCollum, and the Hawkins one really changes it. But yeah, just throwing that out there. Okay, what if they did this then? Jonas Valanciunas, Garrett Temple, Willie Hernan go Mavs for Tim Hardaway and JaVale.
Yeah. I've always kind of liked Garrett Temple too.
He's got 1 year. He's got 1 year left. They're just kind of flipping around stuff, and they're like, all right, we'll take a vet with JaVale. Maybe JaVale helps Zion a little bit, and is the vet that he needs.
I wouldn't be banking on that one for the deal, but I like adding another wing in Temple.
And then the other one was Jonas Valanciunas, Temple, and Willie for Tim Hardaway Jr., and then some kind of sign and trade for Dwight. Maybe Dwight's the vet that they need, and they want more of a mobile center.
Yeah, I wonder where they're at with the cap, because that would hard cap them. So I wonder how close they are to that number.
Yeah, but that was the one I just threw out. It's like, what if something crazy happened?
Yeah,
what if they just decided to go nuts? So yeah, there you go. Those are my stopgap centers: Kelly Olynyk, Jonas Valanciunas. Let me know what you think about those trades. What you think about some of the other ones: Tobias Harris, Deandre Ayton, and all that. Name one player in the comments that you think the Mavericks have to trade for. We'll be back tomorrow with more trades, more rumors, and all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.